Welcome to this webinar on the surveys tool in Amathuba. I want to say to everybody that is watching the recording, everybody present today, I hope that you can just maybe quickly take a deep breath and just focus for a few minutes on what we have to share. And we're quickly going to look at the surveys tool. If you have used Vula in the past, it is the equivalent tool to polls, and it's just called something different in Amathuba, and mainly it will also allow you the same functionality. There may be small differences here and there, but without further ado, I'm quickly going to dive in. With me in the room today as a presenter is Mashudu, and Mashudu, thank you so much for being here, and yeah, let's dive in. So today what we're going to look at and the outcomes is by the end of this webinar, you should be able to create a survey in Amathuba and then also identify objectives and possible use cases for surveys in teaching and learning on Amathuba. Quick notes is that surveys can be accessed. It's from the lecturing. If you're enrolled in a lecturer role, please move your cursor to manage course, and if you click on the drop down menu, on that menu you will see course admin, and when you select course admin there would either be a few categories and you will find surveys there, or you can simply search for it in alphabetical order, surveys, and it will pop up. So what do we use, or just some general comments about the survey tool. The survey tool can be used either asynchronously or synchronously. Asynchronously, you can set it up. This will also be the tool that you use in Amathuba for your course evaluations, mainly because it can also be anonymous. So that's one of the applications, and we're going to look at a few applications just now. And then synchronous application, you can quite easily during the class also let students quickly click on the link that you've created, and then they can access the survey and you can have real-time results. For example, if you chose a poll, then you can see either real-time results, and then after the poll is closed, you can have the final results as well. We also will touch briefly on Wooclap today, as Wooclap is a third-party tool that integrates very nicely onto Amathuba, and it just allows for a more sophisticated experience, especially for synchronous setups. But for the asynchronous setups, we strongly recommend that you use the native survey tool that is built in Amathuba. Then the survey tool can also be scheduled. You can schedule the surveys for release. You can save it and work on it a bit later. So if you have a little bit of time now, quickly work on a section of the survey, you can come back. And then once it's completed, you can schedule it for later release to the students. It provides multiple question type options. There's about 10 of them that you can choose from in a drop-down list. They're quite intuitive. It's, there's multiple choice. There's true and false, all those type of things. And Mashudu will show us that in a little bit more detail. And then very importantly, the survey tool can be either anonymous or it can show names. And this absolutely depends on the objective that you have. So very important to note with the survey tool is that it's not linked to the gradebook. So you cannot use this for assessment purposes. It's also not the purpose of the surveys tool. So definitely it's not linked to the gradebook. Possible use cases for surveys. It provides student engagement opportunities. When I think of the surveys tool, I usually think of it as an information gathering tool, meaning I could use it as an icebreaker to get to know my students better, or let them, so that's one thing. Access previous knowledge, especially at the start of the course or the start of a new section of the course, and you want to understand how much your students have been exposed to, how much they know about a certain topic. Seek opinions, ask them for, feedback on maybe certain aspects of the course, so that you can ask and build in reflections on readings or videos in the course. and just again, remember this is not for marks. You can solicit feedback in aspects of the course. So we said the course evaluations at the end of the course, but it's also strongly recommendable that you actually provide micro assessments or micro evaluations throughout the duration of the course. Maybe not after every module, because students tend to find that quite too repetitive. So if there's a natural clustering of modules together, let's say every second week, or, you know, if 2 or 3 modules belong together, as soon as you have completed those modules, it gives you a natural point where you can build in an assessment, or not an my apologies, not an assessment, a survey, and then you can get feedback from students. And then you can ask them about their preferred delivery or assessment preferences, ask them for feedback on certain aspects of the course. And then very importantly, that last point there that says mid and final course evaluations. So as I said, what is your objective? I'm just quickly going to compare the surveys tool with some of the other tools that's available on Amathuba, just to help you navigate how do I make the decision in terms of what tool I'm going to use. So surveys, as we say, not linked to the gradebook, so it cannot be graded or scored, but it does provide the results to the instructor or to the lecturer. Results can be viewed and downloaded as needed. You can create a survey report, and then it could also be anonymous. Quiz, that's like the traditional test and quizzes also on Vula. So there you will have the option to, or it always provides students with a score. That one is linked to the gradebook, and it can affect the final grade if you choose to link it like that. And then it's also commonly used for summative assessments. Then there's also an additional tool that's available. There's the self-assessment, but this is usually solely for the purpose of the student to assess their understanding of the content. And then instructors cannot view the results of a self-assessment. So again, this is content focused, whereas surveys is definitely not content focused, but more I want to say everything that's on the periphery, opinions, information gathering, all those type of things. And then self-assessment, instructors are able to see who has taken the self-assessment, whereas with surveys, you have the option for it to be anonymous. Very briefly, I'm comparing Wooclap to surveys. So Wooclap, as I said, is a little bit more sophisticated tool. So it's a classroom engagement tool that works best with synchronous engagement. It provides you with quite a few options. It also gives you the option during the class session, and students can quite easily answer the Wooclap poll or whatever it is that you're setting up on their smartphones. So they can also indicate to you if they are confused, so that you know, oopsie, okay, I need to explain this section again, or maybe try a different approach. You can also select whether results are visible by default or not, whether you want to see who answered, whether you want them to authenticate before they answer. So it gives quite a few options there, additional options as well. So question types to the left here, you have the question types that's available in Amathuba in the surveys tool. You can see there that's the traditional true and false, your multiple choice, multi-select, written response question, short answer question, multi-short answer question with, and please take note of all the abbreviations that they use, because sometimes in different places in the platform they would refer to this, and the context is quite clear usually what it is, but just in short so that you can also learn what those stand for. To the right here you can see in Wooclap, if I recall correctly, there's a 17 I think options that Wooclap provides as opposed to the about 10 in survey, so they have more options. So we say it's a little bit of a more sophisticated tool. The advantage that you have when you use the Amathuba surveys is that it lives natively and it stays on the LMS on the digital learning platform. Whereas with Wooclap, you can embed it onto the platform, and Mashuda will also briefly show us that. And I'm just quickly going to check if there are any questions, and if there are no questions, then I'm going to hand over to Mashudu.
Awesome. Thank you, Nadine. I am now going to do the demo. I just want to... Nadine, please let me know when you can see my screen.
I can.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to do a demo on Amathuba, and it will mainly be on how to create a survey. And just as Nadine has already said, that I will touch a little bit on Amathuba as well. So this will be pretty much just a run through on, you know, how to create a survey and some of the tools that you will find in the survey tool, and also how to send the survey to participants and how you can embed it in your content page on Amathuba. So I'll start off with showing how to create a survey on Amathuba. The survey tool in our UCT context is not on the navigation bar, so you have to go and look for it or find it under course admin. So you'll need to go click on Manage Course Admin, and that is where you will find the survey tool. So then you'll have to go click on it. In order to create a new survey, you have to click on the button that says New Survey. If you have created other surveys before, you'll notice that all the other surveys will be listed there below. You'll have a list of all your surveys there. So we want to create a new survey. So I'm going to click on New Survey. And I am going to give my survey a title. So I'm going to call this Test Webinar. I'll call it Test Webinar. Now you can add a category to your survey. Now what a category is that it's almost like a tag that you can use to group several surveys, or you know, several surveys that you've created. So for example, if you have created a number of surveys for a certain module, you can then say this survey should be grouped under module 1. If you want that survey to be grouped under that module. Or you can alternatively create a new category by clicking on Add Category. So I'm just going to click on, I'm going to put this one under module 1 because I have already created a category that is called module 1. And just so that I can show you how it will look like when it's listed under that category. So you can then decide on what settings you want to have. Do you want your survey of students to get instant feedback, or do you want the results to be anonymous? This is where you would then tick the tool or the setting that you want there. Now, after you finish adding your settings, what you can do is that you now have to start inserting your questions or adding your questions. And you do so by clicking on the Add or Edit Questions button. So I'm going to click on that button, and it will take me to this, to the questions tool. And in order to create a new question, a question, you can do so by clicking on New, and then the drop-down arrow over there. You can see by clicking on the drop-down arrow, it shows me the 10 question types that Nadine mentioned earlier. And with that, there's also a section button. And this basically works the same or in a similar way as a category, but in this space, it is within that survey, it will group your questions instead. So you could have section A, maybe section A is about a certain topic in the module, or you want to get feedback on a certain bit or section of the module. This is what you would then do. Sections will group your questions appropriately. You can also import or upload a file, but at the moment, it only allows you to import CSV files, which is a bit tricky for some people, but there is an option to do so. So I'm going to demonstrate how to create a new question by simply using the new button, create new button tool, and then creating and typing in a question from scratch. So we're going to start off by creating a true or false question. And so I'm going to click on the true or false button, and this is what it will look like. If you've selected the question or the question type, you probably, like, let's say you clicked on the wrong question type by mistake, you can always change after going in there. You can always, if you decide you want to use a different question type, you can change, and then just click on the drop down arrow there next to the question type, and then select the one that you want after entering that page. So I'm going to type in a question here, and true or false, Amathuba is UCT's LMS. Okay. And you'll notice that on the left right-hand side, there is as you are typing your question, there is a preview of what this will look like when the students view the question. So which is a really good feature to have, because then you are able to see what this question will look like when the students interact with it. So I've created the question. There is an options button. Under that options button, you can choose to add feedback or add a short description. And what it will do is that it will give you like a box or space there where you can add a short description to that particular question. Under the option tool, you can also say add enumeration, which will provide you with almost like a numbering function or numbering feature there. Okay, so that is how you would create a true or false question. And after you finish creating that question, you can then save, and you can either save and then exit, or save and new if you want to create another a new question, and particularly if you want to create or type in a new question type. You can also say save and copy. Now what this will do is, if you want to create a similar question type, you can use the save and copy, click on the save and copy button, and then you'll create it will create the same question, but then you just need to edit that particular question. So I'm going to say save and new because I want to create another question type, a different question type. And in this case, I'm going to create a question type, the written response, that will require a written response from my participants. So I'm going to click on written response. I'm going to select that question type. And in here, I can type in a question. I will say, how are you finding Amathuba? So this will require a written response from the participants. Now it's still generating that preview, box that I talked about earlier. And it should do so within a few seconds. And then you'll still find the options button. Now in this case, it's slightly different to the one that you saw when we were working with the true or false question. We have the add feedback button, we have the add short description, but in this case, there is an option to add a custom response box size. So in this case, what this means is that you can the custom response box size is basically a tool or feature that allows you to select the box size that you want, that the students should, or the participants should type into. So if your question requires a very short answer, like a sentence, you can then select you want the box size to be short or small, and you will see there that in that preview box, the box size will be resized, be much smaller. And if you want this to be much longer, let's say it's something that will require a paragraph or an essay, then you can select it and you'll see that the space or the box will be much bigger. So that is just something that you find under the written response, under options under written response, which is quite useful. There's also an option to enable HTML editor for learner responses. So if you look at the box, or the preview box over there, you'll notice that there aren't any formatting tools or any HTML editor tools. And you can enable that, and then students can be able to, as they type their response, use some of the friendly, or user-friendly HTML and formatting tools that you find, that they normally find even in Word, Google Docs, and all that, which can be useful if you, for your participants, especially for those lengthy responses that they might have. You can also enable the feature that would allow your learners to insert images and add attachments. Now you'll notice that as I'm changing settings here or selecting different or various settings here, the preview box changes as well to reflect what the learners will see. So in this case, the allow learners to insert images and add attachments button allows, you'll notice that there'll be an add file button that has been added there, where learners can add or upload an image or a text file into their, into that particular question. They can also record an audio or record a video and upload it to that response. So that is what it would look like. And so right now we are done with the survey. And I'm going to now save. We're done creating the survey. I'm now going to click on save. And that is what the survey will look like. Right now, you'll notice that after you've completed your survey, there's an option to delete. You can select a question and delete that question. There's an option to reorder. So for example, if you don't want a particular question to be, to come first or to be ordered where it's been positioned, you can always click on the reorder button and shuffle the questions around by using these arrows on the left-hand side. Click on save if you want to save the changes, or cancel if you don't want to change the settings. You can also click on edit values. Now what this will do is, if there's a particular question that is mandatory for students to do or complete, you click on you select that question, click on the edit values button, and what it will do is that you click on, you want this question to be mandatory, save, and you will see that this question will be indicated as mandatory. So it will not, they will have to complete that question before they move on to the next question. Now we've completed our survey, and now it's time to then send the survey to our participants. Now you need to then, on the top right-hand corner of the screen, there's a button there that says Done Editing Questions. You click on that button, and it will take you back to the main surveys page where we first started, where we were starting off with the survey title and the categories and the all those various functions. Now, before I continue, I just want to find out if there are any questions at this point. Okay. All right. Okay, now we're going to proceed and continue. It doesn't sound like there are any questions. So you can see now we've added our questions in there, and they will be listed below the add or edit question. You can go back and add more questions if you wish. And you can still edit values from here, from this page. You can also opt to say how many questions you wish to have per page, and also format the paging. The paging. So I will say I want to have, I'll just say I want to have 2 questions. So you can click on this to say students should not be able to go backwards by clicking on that button, or disable that so the students can be able to navigate between the different pages. You can also opt to shuffle the questions around at survey level or not. Now we are going to send this survey to our participants. You can add description if you wish to. You can also add a submission message, and that would be a message that the students will receive just after they finish successfully submitting that survey. You can also add a page footer. And at the very bottom of this page, there is an invite participants button. And that is the button that you would use to send this survey to your participants. So I'm going to click on this button here. And what it will do is that it will create or open like an HTML editor page. This is basically a draft of the email that the students or your participants will get when you send this survey. You can edit this page, but it is quite, short and easy for, for participants to just have a quick read and know exactly what to do. I will show you how it looks like on the participant side. You can edit and add more information if you wish for your participants to have more info about that survey. And you can then come in and find participants. If you have students added in your page, you can simply go click and select all the participants that you have on your site, and then opt to then send it to all your students, or you can select specific individuals that you want to send the survey to. So I sent it to my student account, and in order to send the survey so that the participant can then receive the notification that there is a survey to complete, you then need to click on the submit button. After you click on the submit button, the participants will get an email, and this is what it will look like. So they'll get an email. It's a no reply, bright space email. I think this might change in the near future to Amathuba, but I think it's important to also just mention to your students that, there will be an email that they'll receive. Often people ignore such no reply emails. But this then should be something that you note to your students, that there will be a survey that will be sent out as a no reply. Please don't ignore the email, interact with the email and respond to the survey. Now, this is what the email would look like. And in order to access the survey, they would click on the click here to access the survey. They can then complete the survey. I don't know if there are any questions at this point, but I'm now going to show where you can then access the survey report. So if you go back to the survey tool, before I do that, actually, there's another way that you can make your survey available to your participants that doesn't involve sending an email. You can also embed or add a link in content page of that survey. And in order to do so, I'm just going to create an HTML page where I'm going to add a link to that survey that we've just created. And in here, you can add your instructional text about the survey. So I'm just going to keep it basic. Please complete the survey in the link below. And I will then use the insert quick link button. Click on the insert quick link button, and there'll be a toolbox that will appear. Now I want to add a survey, so scroll down until you get the survey tool, click on survey, and you'll see that the survey that we created, the test webinar, is there. Click on it, and the link will be inserted onto the HTML page. So when the students then interact with the course content on Amathuba, when they get to this page, they will then see that, oh, there is a link to a survey that we need to complete, and they can then complete the survey from there. This is ideal even say at the end of a module or at the end of a course or mid-course or mid-year, where you have, or you can use this to send or insert a course evaluation survey. I'm going to then save and close. So those are the two ways that you can make your survey available to your students for them to complete the survey. I don't know if there are any questions at this point.
Nothing in the chat, Mashudu.
Awesome. All right, so I'm now going to show you how you can access the report of your survey. It's pretty much basic and straightforward. You click on course admin, you go to surveys, and then in that particular surveys, if students have completed or have been engaging with that particular survey, you click on the drop down arrow to that of that survey there, and then you click on reports. Then you'll be able to see a report of what your students, of the survey responses. And you can also click on statistics, where you'll be able to see some values of, even the number of attempts that the students made in order to engage with that particular survey. So that is where you would then get the reports and the stats of that survey. On that drop-down arrow, you can also, if you, I didn't mention this earlier, but if you want to edit your survey, or maybe you want to reuse a certain survey, you can go click on the drop-down arrow and edit. You can click on the edit button to then edit the survey. You can also hide the survey from users, and it will not be available for students or participants to engage in, or you can also preview your survey from that button. So that is pretty much what we needed to discuss with regards to the survey tool. All right, now I'm going to touch briefly on on the Wooclap tool. And as Nadine has already mentioned, it is quite, you know, an interactive tool that I'm just trying to navigate to Wooclap to a different page. So it is an interactive platform where you can create polls, questionnaires, and it has about more than 17 question types. Like, they keep updating and adding more question features, which is really good. Wooclap is a UCT supported tool, so every UCT lecturer would have access to Wooclap using their UCT login details. So students can interact with if you have created a Wooclap, they can interact with a Wooclap without necessarily logging in or signing up. They can, by simply using a join event code, be able to go in and access a Wooclap and then interact with it. So I just wanted to show, you know, what the page, or the welcome page of the Wooclap page would look like. Now, for you to go in, you would then click on the login button and then select. Okay, I think in my case, it's because I'm already signed in, but you would then select log in or sign in with Microsoft or with Office. Then you can then type in your UCT login details, and it will allow you to go in there. Now, all the Wooclaps that you would have created will be shown over there, or will be listed on that landing page. And these are called events. So in this case, I'm just going to do a quick demo on how to create an event. So you can click on the button Create Event, and you will see that all the question types will be shown over there, which is really cool because it gives you a lot of options that that are absent even on some of the options are not available on Brightspace. And so this gives you, this widens your options, widens your scope, and you can then use this tool. It is a tool that can be integrated seamlessly on Brightspace, and I will demonstrate that as well. So in this case, I'm just going to create I'll create a multiple choice question. Let me just create a poll. I'll create a poll because we don't necessarily have a poll tool on Brightspace. One would use the multiple choice option on Brightspace. So I'm going to create a poll, and the question here, I think I'm just going to copy the question that they have here, which is, do you think we need to do more to fight climate change? Okay, and the responses are yes and another no. So you can say that your users can select multiple answers, or you can also put a timer, which will then, this is quite useful if you're having a synchronous session or in a lecture and you want to give students like a specific time to complete the Wooclap. So I'm just going to leave that as it is. You can save a Wooclap. Let's say, for example, you would like to prepare your Wooclap in advance for release in a lecture the next day. You can save it and then revisit it when you want your students to engage with it. Or you can click on the Display Now button. And in this case, this activates your Wooclap and it becomes available for your students to engage with. So I'm simply going to click on Display Now, and this is what it will look like. So earlier on, I showed you a page, that landing page on Wooclap, where students can go and insert the event code. This would be that code. This is the code which will be different for various events, but this would be the code that you will insert in there. And this is the page that the students will then interact with in order to respond to the question. Now, when you have students in your Wooclap, it will show you here at the bottom that you have this number of participants in your Wooclap. So I'm happy with my Wooclap, but now I want to go and embed this Wooclap on Brightspace or on Amathuba. So you can go click on the link at the top there, select copy, and then go to your Amathuba page or your site. We want to embed this as a page, as a content page inside in the content tool. So you can do so by clicking on create new, web link, and then click on web link. And then give your content page a title. And in this case, I'm going to call it Wooclap on climate change. And then I will then come in and paste that link. Now I want this Wooclap to be embedded onto the page so that students should not necessarily be redirected to a new tab. But you can use this option, which is highly recommended, because sometimes when you have tools or pages embedded on a page, it does take time to load. It can also be taxing on data. So, but in this case, I want to embed this page onto that Amathuba content page. So if you click on open in a new tab, what it will do is it will indicate or show that there is a link to a Wooclap, and by clicking on that, it will open a new tab on a different. It will redirect them to that Wooclap page in a completely new tab. So I'm going to opt for embed on page, and then I'm going to click on save and close. Now this is what it's going to look like. But remember, your students can insert the code. They can insert the code in there and then join the Wooclap to engage with the Wooclap. So that is what it will look like. And I think this should bring us to the end of this webinar. I don't know if there are any questions in the chat. I don't know if there are any questions, Nadine, but I think I'm going to hand over to you to wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mashudu. I don't see anything in the chat. People are welcome to unmute if they have questions. But yes, so there's the overview of the surveys tool, and as you can see, I want to say almost extension through the use of Wooclap to create more engaging experiences for students. Thank you so much for your time, and we do hope that that you have a wonderful afternoon. I just wanted to mention before we go, and I'm briefly going to share my screen, just to add additional or to show you where you can find additional resources. If you have any questions while working on your own, can you see my screen? It's on the SILT page. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, on the SILT landing page, if you navigate to SILT, uct.ac.za, and then SILT about SILT, if you navigate, you can quickly go to Amathuba. Here in the top right corner is the short link. It gives you a lot of information, but there on the left-hand page, you can just see there's on the navigation pane, it says staff resources. And if you click on that, there's quite a few recordings. And then very important, this is the, I want to say the quick start guide. So the getting started, there's a quick guide, there's a comprehensive guide on getting started, there's the staff orientation course. And for all the webinars listed, most of them, for example, today's one would be covered by surveys and then also Wooclap. So we have the tool guides. If you click on surveys, it will take you to a downloadable PDF, and there's information about the tool, and then literally also with steps setting up a survey. It talks about anonymous participation, restrictions, special access, survey reports. So everything is in the help guide as well, if you have the need to go there. So if there are no questions, I would like to say thank you so much for your participation, and have a great afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.